Right now, the United States is ranked 17th on the list of 40 developed countries. Why isn't the United States at first? What is the significant difference between the United States and the countries ahead of it? Let's look at Finland, which is currently in first. Finland has amazing educational statistics. The United States has a high school graduation rate of 75%. Finland, on the other hand, has a high school graduation rate of 93%. Finland students also have the best chance at going to college in all of Europe. About 2 out of 3 Finnish students will go to college. Not to mention that their program for international student assessment scores from 2006 were the highest of all countries. The question is, what makes Finland so advanced in terms of education? It could be that Finnish students rarely have homework until they are 13 to 14 years old, rather than being the average 5th grader in New York City who has 50 minutes of homework a day. It could be that the average student in New York City takes 10 standardized tests by the time they reach high school, instead of taking 1 standardized test by the time a Finnish student is 16. It could even be that Finnish students have 75 minutes of recess instead of 27. But the biggest difference for me is the teachers. Now, teachers in Finland are valued. If you're a teacher in Finland, you have the same esteem as a doctor or a lawyer. Teachers in Finland are also required to have a master's degree, and only the top 10% of graduates are accepted into teaching programs. Now, all this does contribute to Finland's great education system, but another important reason is the teacher-to-student ratio. The average teacher in New York City has 24 students to teach, and even in some of my classes, I have teachers teaching over 30 students. The average teacher in Finland has 12 students to teach. This provides personal interaction between the teacher and every single student. Growing up in Atlanta, Georgia, I was never really challenged. Being a gifted student, it was even harder to challenge myself. My gifted program in my old school was insufficient, and half the students in my class were considered gifted. I haven't been challenged until the 8th grade. So when I moved to the Park City, Utah 3 years ago, I tested out of more than a few units and lessons. So what interests me about Finland is that 1 in 3 students receive a different type of education, whether it's gifted or special education. The thing is, these students do not leave the classroom. The teacher-to-student ratio is low enough that the teacher can keep the special education students caught up, the normal students on task, and the gifted students she can give a challenge. After reading all this in an article, I became curious, and I looked into 2 other countries. These 2 countries were South Korea and Japan. South Korea is currently at first on the same 40 developed countries list with Finland, and has a lower teacher-to-student ratio than the United States. Japan, which is within the top 5, also has a lower teacher-to-student ratio than the United States. Valuing our teachers to the point that they deserve, along with lowering our teacher-to-student ratio, would benefit teachers, students of all types, and would help the United States advance in terms of education. There's an idea worth spreading.